In this week's video, we're going to be talking about evaluating expressions. Evaluating expressions is basically just one step above order of operations. Let's take a look at some things you want to watch out for. At this point, you might want to press pause and put these three things into your notes. Go ahead and press pause and put those in your notes now. The first thing we see here, number one, is to carefully, very serious about that one, carefully substitute the values in for the given variables. And I would substitute them in using parentheses. See what I did there? Okay, number two, watch your signs. And we'll talk more about that in the first example. And then number three, work the problem one step at a time, or a step, right? One step at a time. And you're going to have to rewrite the problem several times. You got to be willing to rewrite as you go. If not, you're going to make a lot of errors and get frustrated. So let's try to avoid that. So our first problem here, the directions say to evaluate the given expression. There's no solving. We just take this as far as we can go. And here's our expression, PQ minus R. And it says to use 9 for P, 8 for Q, 10 for R. So I'm just going to rewrite that. All right, so instead of writing P, I write 9 because P is worth 9. So on and so forth for Q and R. Now, what I'm suggesting is sometimes we might want to put these numbers in parentheses. Now, we don't want to get too happy with the parentheses, otherwise we'll end up with a sea of parentheses. But when the value of the number is negative, parentheses will serve us well, especially when it follows a minus sign like this. Now we're just going to go ahead and use our order of operations. My first item I can take care of is right here, 9 times 8, which is 72 minus 10. That's that rewriting I'm talking about. And then 72 minus 10 is 62. And that's our final answer. And that's it. Take a moment, press pause, and copy this problem into your notes. Okay, so our first item of business is to read the problem right here. Z times, open parentheses, y minus x, close parentheses, where x is worth 4, y is worth 7, and z is worth negative 5. So we come over and we're going to substitute in carefully. All right, so as you notice, I put the negative 5 in parentheses. And our 7 minus 4, that was originally written inside of parentheses. So in terms of watching our order of operations, this piece is to go inside of parentheses and do what you can do. There's nothing I can do with the negative 5, so I'm just going to rewrite it. But the 7 minus 4 is worth 3. And then a negative 5 times a positive 3, well, a negative times a positive is a negative, and 5 times 3 is 15. I kind of have this little mantra I like to say, signs first, numbers second. If you notice right back here, I said a negative times a positive is a negative, and I wrote the negative, and then 5 times 3 is 15. Signs first, numbers second. Moving on to our third example. You guessed it, press pause, copy everything in. Okay, so we have y plus y divided by 5, not y over 5, plus the value of z, where y is negative 5 and z is 5. So go ahead and try to substitute those values in carefully. Well, I guess this is just a sea of 5s, huh? All right, well, my y was a negative 5, so every time I substitute in a negative, I'm really careful about substituting negatives inside of parentheses. All right, so now take a look at what's going on here. And my first order of business is going to be right here. I'm going to deal with that division. So that's going to be negative 5, and then a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So this sign right here is now going to become negative. And 5 divided by 5 is 1, plus 5. Now I take this across from left to right. A negative 5 and a negative 1 is going to be negative 6 plus 5 for a final answer of negative 1. Now we get into something a little bit more complicated. Negative 4 squared times x minus y. Notice I said times because there's absence of a sign implies multiplication, all divided by 4. Press pause, substitute in your values carefully. All right, now again, notice I substituted my negatives inside of parentheses. This minus sign in front of the y is not going to serve as the negative for the value of 8. It's minus a negative 8. And that's what I'm saying about being careful about substituting in values. Why don't we just clean up that top line just a touch. The negative 4 squared, of course, is negative 4 times negative 4, right? Over on the side here, we'll just sort of evaluate that. Negative 4 squared, again, is negative 4 times negative 4, which is a negative times negative is a positive 16. So over on the left side here, that's 16 times open parentheses, that's a negative 9, and a negative, right here, this minus a negative 8 is the same as plus 8, all divided by 4. Now just for the sake of space, I'm just going to box this off so we don't get confused, and I'm going to work this over to the left side here. That's going to be 16, and a negative 9 plus 8 is going to be a negative 1, all over 4, which is negative 16 divided by 4, and a negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 16 divided by 4 is 4. So that's my final answer. Now, of course, on lined paper, I would want to try to keep this working vertically like that, but I'm limited in my space on the tablet here. Okay, our last problem, and again, I tried to pick something that was a little bit challenging. We have a negative 8, open parentheses, p, open parentheses again, n plus 3, close parentheses, plus p, close again. So when we take a look at our order of operations, we're going to go to this innermost set of parentheses and then work our way outwards from there. Go ahead, press pause, substitute in your values. Now we're going to work our way from the inside out, so the stuff on the outside can get rewritten. And this negative 1 plus 3 right here is the first thing I'm going to take care of. That's going to be worth 2. Everything else I just rewrite. So all I took care of was this piece right here. Knock that out of the way because that was my innermost parentheses. Now I'm going to work my way inside the next set of parentheses, this big set right here. And so I'm going to rewrite the 8 again, and this piece right here is where I'm focused. That's 4 times 2 is going to be worth 8 plus 4, which is negative 8 times 12. And now you're thinking, uh-oh, I don't know what negative 8 times 12 is off the top of my head. That's all right. First, let's deal with the signs. A negative times a positive here is going to be a negative. And now I just need to know what 8 times 12 is. Well, if you don't know it off the top of your head, don't pick up a calculator. Try it out by hand. 8 times 2 is 16. Carry that 1 ever so gently. 8 times 1 is 8, plus this 1 is a 96. So our final answer, negative 96. All right, that should be enough to get you through your weekly problem set. Enjoy. Work carefully.